Magick.me is the world's greatest school for magic, meditation, and mysticism. You can learn everything there, from chaos magic to hermeticism to meditation to how to supercharge your finances and take absolute control of your destiny. In short, you get all of the tools you need to turn chaos into beautiful, scintillating order and master your life. It's incredible. You've probably heard me talk about it on the show quite a lot. But check it out, it's growing fast, and I just want to say, if you're confused about where to start, because I have so many courses there, the Adept Initiative is the place to go. The Adept Initiative is the flagship course on Magick.me, and it contains everything you need to know to master the most profound ancient techniques of changing your consciousness and the most modern and cutting-edge tools and systems for absolutely turning your life into a masterpiece. You're really going to dig it. Go check it out, and I will see you in class. It's magick.me, magick.me.
What is your advice? And it's kind of a really big question of how would you use magic in music?
Okay. Good question. I'm trying to figure that out myself right now.
Okay.
You know, this is a lot of magic people, music people get magic immediately. I'm a magic person who's trying to understand music. But music people, I think, intuitively understand magic, and it's always been that way. It's like if you go to like OTO meetings and stuff like that, it's all like frustrated musicians, you know? And I think it's because when you're a musician, you're basically creating vibes, you're creating subjective information, right? And you have to be extremely on point about what you're picking up from other musicians if you're playing live, and you're basically transmitting completely subjective psychic feelings to other people. And if you get it right, you're successful, and if you don't, you're not, right? It's like, it's not a logical process. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Feel right? You know, so maybe you can say more specifics, or what type of musician are you?
Sure. I'm into film music, so a lot of synthesizers, orchestras, and I just didn't know if you had anything of like you invoke certain archangels or certain planets to kind of go inside some sort of sigil by using the Kabbalic Hebrew lettering, and then you'd put that inside a score, or like have a choir sing Enochian, or I don't know.
If you figure out how to do that, please let me know. Collab, bro, as they say. Yeah. Do you use Contact?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm learning Contact right now. It's great stuff, right?
Oh yeah. No, all the Spitfire audio.
It's phenomenal. I was like, how does this exist? It's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I used all this stuff just did the music for the new Buddhist course that's about to come out.
Very cool.
I use Contact, and actually, what did I do? I had like 8 emulated Jupiter 8s.
Oh, nice.
Like all going at once, and then I mixed and mastered it, and with going through Eventide harmonizers.
Oh wow!
I've got Ableton Live 10 open right now. Somebody says wait for it to crash. That is the buggiest software. I love Ableton though. Duncan Trussell got me interested in this stuff. It's like an unbelievable tunnel to be in. So I'm trying to figure it out myself. Have you taken the Magic and Art course that I have?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So what did you think of the stuff in there?
I've only been at this for 3 weeks. I've done the membership, so I'm still like completely new, and just like everything's just
welcome.
Thank you. So for right now, I'm rather ignorant and naive, and just trying to figure out like, who can you talk to? What can you invoke? What's safe and not safe to do? And you want, as you know, in the beginning, you want to do a sigil for just everything.
Yeah. Well,
even in your Nokian course, I had to laugh because I think you said like, and meet Dave, the guitar shredder is going to do magic to amp up his career, and then he discovers a Nokian magic, and then he's going to be a superstar. I'm like,
yeah.
Well,
are you aware of what's this fucker's name? Ghost Domain?
I know the band Ghost.
Oh my lord. There is a SoundCloud rapper named Ghost Domain who did a song called John D. He's like one of these 21-year-old kids with face tattoos. Yeah. SoundCloud rapper. And he just like does all his like what is it? It's like it's unbelievably bad, but kind of not. I mean, he's hugely famous, but it's just like, oh my God, what is this? Okay, let me wash that out of my brain for half a second. Okay, so I will say this. Pretty much everything that is in the Magic and Art course is more than enough to get started with getting inspiration for any type of art. Music,
Mhm. Oh,
visual
absolutely.
art, writing, there's so much in there, right? There's a lifetime worth of tools in there. And I have a lot of students who are visual artists as well, who very successfully use that stuff. Um, the In terms of, I mean, learning Kabbalah is basically like learning scales in music,
Oh yeah, no, it's
right? But
dense.
you learn the spheres and the paths, and you're learning these scales of mythological resonance.
Well, and like some of it, I'm kind of intimidated by because it said like if you invoke Jupiter for say prosperity, you don't want to do the spirit, you want to do the intelligences and the
Yeah,
archangel. But
that's
so
something I said. That sounds like
I,
something I said.
it sounds like something you said. It's along those lines, and just
Yeah.
yeah, I'm at the point in the beginning. It's just I'm kind of too very timid to do anything because I just don't want to, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be intimidated, but or feel like you're going to do something wrong, but my general dictum on Kabbalah is you can't just do one part of it. You have to do the whole thing. As long as you do the whole thing, you're safe because then you're balanced out.
Mhm.
Right. It's like people are like, oh, I'm just going to work with the sphere of Saturn. Well, no, then you're imbalancing your personality only to one side. It would be like a musical equivalent would be like, just if you just boost the 100 hertz spectrum in your EQ, like plus 10, 20 decibels and leave everything else where it is. That's what working with Kabbalah is like when you only do some parts of it. Right.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
So,
Um, Yeah, I was just trying to think about like Enochian text or the Hebrew text and like choral music. And I remember you were saying that like you know, like in New Age they're all into the different healing frequencies, and I haven't had much luck doing that stuff, but I was just trying to see like what is out there that you invoke an archangel, but you can invoke that inside the music
sure,
and the handwritten score and just
sure, you can do that.
yeah, just primarily trying to think of things that would really help people and heal people as, you know, new agey as that might sound.
No.
Um,
I think that Well, I mean, my main answer is I'm trying to figure it out right now. And if you figure anything out, please let me know because
okay.
this is one of my main areas of interest right now. But I would generally say that, well, the most important thing for any artist working in any medium who starts to incorporate magic is to start from your own unconscious rather than the synthetic effects of the Kabbalah. And the best way to do that is to start keeping a dream journal and start using the dream journal as the inspirational focus for music you're making. Start mining material out of your dreams, right? That's the way to do it because, like, literally, you know, every single generation of musicians since the 60s, since the Beatles, has rediscovered Crowley and started like putting occult references in music. And it's like, from fucking Led Zeppelin to Ghost Domain, it never goes away, right?
I'd
And
like to progress from that and go to a higher
yeah, it's
plateau.
like, okay, like, yeah, exactly. It's like, and so everyone like basically puts occult symbols and references in their music and thinks it makes them look edgy. And it's like, no, we've seen this for
Well, it's
decades.
a big gimmicky, and then it's just like you want to graduate from just material wealth to actual enlightenment, you know. And
Right. Well, magic is a tool. You want to use it for to get actually good material, right? So in that sense, it's important to get on good footing with the actual process. And that's why A, meditation, and B, dream journaling are the foundational practices here, just like they are for everything else.
I didn't know if there's any planned vocations you should do or archangels you should do to talk to them about, hey, what's your take on music and from the heavens and what could
Well, you
you
can
add?
work with the muses, right? You work with the Greek muses.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, those are in 777.
Mm-hmm.
That might
And
be, or, you just get on Wikipedia and look for gods of music. So, but that's kind of what I mean with it. So the dreams, like the dreaming world and the record of one's dream life, the dream record is essential because it opens up that whole world and allows you to recall and remember things where it's shut for most people. So it's the actual writing down is less important in a sense than it's very important because otherwise you won't get any information. But the writing it down is less important than the knock-on effect of writing it down, which is that writing it down every morning means that you recall more of your dreams and they're longer and more vivid. So it opens up the realm of shamanic communication with the magical world. Most people are like, oh, like, like they think about, oh, like, how do I see things? I got to take a bunch of psychedelic mushrooms and LSD. It's like, no, you don't. That's a fucking shortcut and it's not sustainable. And you don't really get that great of information. The way to do it is, I mean, I take that back. You definitely can get good information, but it's taxing. It takes, long periods of time. It's hard, it's not legal in many places. There's a lot of downsides. It can lead to abusing other drugs, So let's not pretend it can't. And I think we're all grown up enough to realize that the gateway drugs are a real thing. So the dream life is where it's done. Right? It takes a lot more effort. Duh. It's like this isn't like you need to be trained to do this, like athletics. So meditation also opens up those strata of the mind, meditation and dream journaling. So if you get that stuff down, you do 6 months of meditation and dream journaling, like, you'll have the egress to the other world. And from there, you can start putting intention into it, such as using sigils to get specific information, dream incubation. I cover all these techniques in the lucid dreaming course, right? So,
how do you feel about getting into certain mental states, like doing the LBRP and the whole rituals before you even start making music, and then you just go inside a meditative trance and then just start creating while invoking an archangel, maybe?
Try it. I keep meaning to. I haven't done it yet. Try it.
Because I find myself going into
no harm
trance.
in it. What?
I find myself going to trances and I write stuff and then I come out of it and then I just don't even realize just what happened. And it'll be like a 9-hour trance and you just kind of go into it. And in New Age, they say it's channeling, but I just find that rather cheap than to what really is going on.
Well, I think what you're pinpointing, perhaps, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're in a shamanic state when you're in that trance, as all creative people are when they go into that state. Creative people always experience that once they're really in the trance. They don't know what the fuck it is. And New Age people say it's like channeling, but New Age people are dumb. I'm sorry. They're making a dangerous error there, just like the spiritualists did and the Theosophists did. Oh, I'm channeling. What's the error they're making? Their error is not that they're not channeling. It's just they don't know what they're channeling. Right? It's like it's open. They're an open conduit. My dead grandmother Julie is coming through me. Yeah, okay. And so the point of Hermetic magic, which is why Hermetic magic seems like computer code, is it's the code of structuring that and it's like calling who you want to call. Like when you're talking about angels, it's like, well, it's like, great, you're channeling. Well, who was on the other end? Who was on the other end of the line? I don't know. Well, what the fuck? Well, did you call what number did you call? I just picked up the phone. It's like, well, with ceremonial magic, you know whose number you're calling. Right. So this is something you can work towards. In terms of specific archangels and spirits and things like that, Wikipedia is your friend. I hate to be that, glib about it, but Wikipedia is great for more.
I'm just very, very scared because I grew up, as most people did, in a Christian household, and I was attacked by demons when I was younger. I don't always bite through. I was slept next to a mirror, but I'm just very cautious of whatever I'm, trying to conjure, if you will. Because of course, you always hear the horror stories of people bringing something and they can't get rid of it. And
well, this is why banishing rituals are important.
Yeah, I mean, even I worked on some a horror movie, and I really didn't want to do it, but it was to a favor for a friend. But it had to do with a demon in a theater, and I get very iffy because I just don't want to bring anything to my life. Because you talked about that on your podcast about art. It was the gentleman with the 9 Inch Nails. He was talking about someone wanted to do an art of Lucifer.
Cool. Yeah.
The next question is protecting yourself if you do have to do that sort of thing, of just knowing that you're good and
LBRP, or just don't be there in the first place. One of the greatest things Carlos Castaneda said. Somebody asked him, like, "What's the shamanic way to ward off physical attacks?" He said, "Don't fucking be there in the first place." That's how a shaman does it. So demons. People don't think demons aren't real. Really? You sure about that? How sure are you? Turns out not very sure. Like I always said, people are like, the chaos magicians don't believe in the literal existence of anything. They're like, oh, demons, whatever. It's just another thought form. Really? Well, what is it, my friend? It's like, is Cthulhu real? No. If you only think about elder gods and tentacles all day long, what kind of life do you think you're going to live?
True. Yeah.
Good luck with that, right? It's like
Right.
it's like what I always tell people. It's like, it's like, what kind of day do you have if you pay attention to the part of yourself that tells you you're not good enough?
Yeah.
And you want to tell me demons aren't real? I'm not saying that's a demon, but I'm saying it's like, well, if you create, even if you created it yourself, if you put your attention into a demonic thought form, you think that doesn't have results? Try it and tell me. So, and so, yeah, this is the magical way to view the world. It's like, and the same with art. People put out all these energies. Oh, I'm just working on Saw 4.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it's a very responsible thing to do. Oh, it's just a movie. Yeah, it's just a fucking movie.
So you
Just a
just say,
movie.
just do the LBRP, and then that just seals you off from anything that you might have.
Well, the LBRP is useful because it creates clean working conditions before and after any ritual, so that you only get what you want to get and nothing else if you've done it correctly.
Hmm.
And it's critical for that reason. And so you don't make the mistake of the spiritualists and the channelers, which is like, you want to, even if you approach this stuff from a psychological model, which you're welcome to, that's definitely a more sane way to look at things. Let's say, even if you were to approach all this stuff from all magic is, let's just, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to say, all that magic is an exercise in Jungian unconscious depth psychology, right? What is magic? Well, it's a process of working with the deep archetypes and structures of mythology to come to a greater sense understanding of the self and to go into the unconscious in a self-directed therapeutic process. So you're using symbols as a way to work through one's goals and motivations in life.
Mhm.
Sound reasonable? Sounds pretty reasonable to me. In fact, I could say that to relatives at the dinner table and they wouldn't blink twice. Pretty useful, right? So even if it's that, right, it's like, well, if you're doing deep psychological work, you want to make sure you're just focusing on that part of your mind and no other part of your mind. Otherwise, you're just lost, So that's the point of banishing rituals.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're talking about angels. If you're drawn to angels, then work with angels. You can't go wrong. Well, I mean, you can definitely go wrong with angels, but when I say that you go wrong, it's just like, they
Well,
start ordering you around and shit.
right. I've heard that some of them aren't so nice, and they require
Well,
payment. And,
no, if you're working with the angelic realm and something wants payment, you're not dealing with an angel.
okay.
Angels have nothing to gain from human beings.
Okay.
It's like you going to.
I think it was the Donald Michael Craig book, the Modern Magic book. He talks about that, where you go through the different Sephiroth, and then you would need a password, and then you need to give energetic payment to them. Is how I understood.
I swear, almost every office hours I do, I have to correct something from Modern Magic. I
Sorry.
swear. No. I'm just not. I'm saying this is important that you bring this up. I wasn't even aware that was in there. It's like, I knew Don Craig briefly. I met him before he died. He was very supportive to me. So I feel like I've somehow inherited his shit in a weird way. But
Yeah. Well, he's pro conjuring demons too, which I'm not a magical wizard master, so I don't know if you just have so much protection. Not a big deal, but like
neither
I'm
is
just like,
anybody.
yeah.
I correct mistakes that were made in Modern Magic almost every call. And in Don Craig's defense, I will say that when he wrote that book, there was very little information available.
Mm-hmm.
There was not all of Crowley's work was available. He was working out of, basically most of his approach was coming out of Wicca, which had just been created 20 years before. Modern Magic is a mishmash of Wicca with some parts of the Golden Dawn and a little bit of Crowley. And the bits of Crowley that he got mostly came from Lewis Culling, who was a very infamous sex magic writer at the time, who's not read anymore, oddly enough. But and the Lewis Culling material came out of a group called the Koran Club. Here's a little bit of magical history for everyone. Does anybody on this call know what the Koran Club was? If you do, you get a gold star for deep occult knowledge. Anybody? Nobody knows what the Koran. Oh man, we're getting into deep territory. So the Koran Club was a occult group in San Diego in the 1950s that was started by a guy named, God damn it, C.F. Russell. C.F. Russell was a mathematician who studied with Crowley at the Abbey of Cefalù, who was clearly schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic, or something was going on. But he became obsessed with the I Ching, and he did all these bizarre books about occult number theory and the I Ching cube with the Kabbalah and all this insane shit. They're still extremely rare and very expensive when people find copies of them, extremely rare. But he started this group called the Koran Club in uh, Crowley's method. Crowley very famously attempted to get at C.F. Russell when C.F. Russell. Man, I shouldn't even tell this story. I'm just going to get into trouble. Okay, the antics of Crowley. Anyways, man, how much of this story do I want to tell? The Corazon Club was a magical group in San Diego that was exclusively for gay men, and was largely more like they were focused on large, basically having orgies every weekend for magical effect. Right? Great work if you can get it right, but Lewis Culling was a member of that group, and C.F. Russell was fucking out of his mind. So Lewis Culling learned sex magic from this group, which had reconfigured Crowley's sex magic instructions in different ways. And so the sex magic and a lot of the magic that ended up in Don Craig's books, who also lived in San Diego at that time, came from Lewis Culling, which was, and so it came from the Corazon Club, and there was an outer circle of the Corazon Club called the GBG, or the Great Brotherhood of God, which is a cult. This is a cult. It's like a weird cult in San Diego. You know, it's in the 50s, right? It's a weird fucking cult. And so the informational sources Craig had to work with was like Lewis Culling, Wicca, Scott Cunningham, and I believe he had access to Israel Regardie. Regardie had access to Crowley, but most of Regardie's training did not come from Crowley. It came from the Stella Matutina branch of the Golden Dawn in New Zealand in the 1950s. So a lot of what they were working with there was 1950s recensions of the Golden Dawn and the OTO. And he was getting information from splinter groups and putting it together. And this was before the internet. It was before you could get these books even. You couldn't even get access to Crowley's books. You know, he probably didn't read anything outside of a few of Crowley's books that were available. Like, they published book 4, but only a tiny part of it, Magic Without Tears, which doesn't make any sense without access to the rest of his works. So in Craig's defense, he had fragmentary information to work with. And so what he did is he patched, basically what Don Craig did is he took the fragmentary information that was available at that time about the Golden Dawn and the OTO and patched it together with Wicca so that it became so it could become a group-oriented thing, so that the energetic ideas of Wicca were involved, so that he turned it into, it could be a lifestyle, as Wicca was at that time, you know. And so all these ideas about, white magic, black magic, gray magic, all this, like what is this, you know? So the magical world has moved on quite a bit since then. Don Craig did phenomenal work for the time, but there's a lot of wrong stuff in that book. The idea that the middle pillar is even necessary for progress in the Golden Dawn, completely a fabrication of Regardie. Regardie made up the middle pillar, but to make it part of a daily practice regimen, that comes from Don Craig, right? His instructions on sex magic, even in that book, come from Lewis Culling, right? So, it's not the original stuff from Crowley. It's taken out of the context of the original theory, and so it was no wonder that chaos magic made short work of that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, well, you got to go back to the primary documents. Now we have an occult scene where people are much, much, much more academic, and they have the internet, they have JSTOR, they can go back to primary sources. So things have been authenticated in a lot of senses. And we just live in a smarter time, you know, and you can't fool people anymore. I remember even in the 90s, you would get these occult books, first of all, were very hard to find. In the 80s and even in the 90s were very, very hard to find. And then when you finally got these things, it was like such an achievement just to get them. and then you read it and it just had these ideas about who the author must be. It's like, oh, this guy must be living like in a castle, like somewhere in, north of Germany, just doing occult experiments all the time. And he must be like this sinister, like hidden master and all this stuff. And it's like, now you can just go on their Facebook page, and look at all the Breitbart articles they're sharing and like fucking InfoWars shit. And they're talking about like, it's just like, Jesus Christ. So now we can see who people actually are. And this is why I'm very grateful that I've never presented myself as anything other than what I am, which is what I am, which is just some fucking nerdy guy from San Diego. So I'm ranting again, but point being, modern magic was an important work for its time because it was the first book to put together magic as a complete package that normal people could access and understand without getting into orders or going through initiatory groups. And he was able to explain things in a way that people could understand them, that they could put them into practice, and they could begin to see it as a lifestyle. And when I wrote Generation Hex, my first book, a lot of what I was attempting to do there was synthesize that into an actual life people could live, but take out all the fucking airbrushed shit and like, make it cool, like make it not a social embarrassment. And the result of that is the modern witch culture, so think of it what you will. So I'm on a fucking tangent. You guys got to rein me in. What was your original question?
Well, the original question was the music, but
Don Craig was a musician too. He's a professional musician.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I recall the book. I think it was this book. I might be getting it mixed up with another Kabbalah book, but I'm pretty sure it was him where he was just talking about energetic exchange.
Oh, okay. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So this goes back to the intelligence versus spirit thing. Angels don't need anything from you. Mm-hmm. They certainly don't need energy. If you are working with a thought form that requires energy from you, you're working with a lower being. This is a critical point for everyone. You look at these things like, we engage in these traditions where these entities that are supposedly gods are asking for blood sacrifice and tribute and animal sacrifice and things like this. It's like, really? Right? Or they want you, ask them to do something and they say, well, if you want this magic done, then something else has to be taken out from somewhere else in the universe. If we move energy here, like if we do this healing, somebody else has to get sick. That's how voodoo works, right?
Right.
It's an exchange. And that's false. I mean, it's sorcery, not magic. It's like, it comes from an
Now, if you're invoking, like,
let me finish this point. I don't want to cut you off, but let me finish this because this is really critical. If you are working with something that is above human on the evolutionary scale, specifically an angel or a god, it doesn't need fucking energy from you. It doesn't. Those things are above us. They're there to keep us. They're there to keep us moving upward on the evolutionary arc. We don't have anything to give them. It's like people pray to God, oh, I'll do this, that, and the other for God. For God, God doesn't need anything from you. God's fucking God, whether you believe in God or not. It's the same principle, right? So be extremely wary of anything that asks for, unless you are specifically attempting to deal with demons, be very, very careful about it, or elementals as well, fairies, that type of thing. Demons, elementals, Loa, Orisha related creatures, be extremely careful if you're not specifically attempting to deal with things like that. If you get something that is asking for something from you, and when I say asking, I don't mean, higher beings will be like, expect you to live your life in a certain way. They will expect you to shape up your shit. They will expect you to...
you don't put flowers or water, because some say put wine or bread on the altar for the angel or the god of the planet, whatever.
Yes, you can, but that's different, right? It's like in Hindu, it's more like a sign of respect, right? It's like if you're in a relationship, like, yeah, you better believe you better get flowers for somebody. Girlfriend, boyfriend might want something else, right? It's like if you're it's like, you better believe you better get stuff for somebody. Family, you better believe you better get them something for Christmas. But it's not because they need energetic exchange, right? It's critical. It's like, it's because it's a token. It is gifted. Right now, in theory, yes, you're expected to do it, but it's like, it's gifted because it is meant to be an expression of your love, right? It is a symbol of your love, and it is a symbol of your appreciation that it is given by you without prompting. It is not demanded. It is not contractual. It is not it's not like give me this. It's not payment, right? That's a very different type of being. Anyways, that's important for everyone.
Cool.
Angels don't need payment from you. They need you to live your life better. That's what angels need.
And one last little mini question is that what's the safest way to invoke planets where you're not involving the spirits, essentially, but just the archangel and the intelligence?
The god names. You invoke the god names. Both intelligences and spirits are at the bottom of the Kabbalistic chain for planets. You want to start with the god names.
Okay.
Those, I believe, are described in modern magic.
Yes.
Yeah, and those are, you can't go wrong with those. Vibrating those is an extremely important part of the learning process. Yeah, okay. And you can begin and end with that, because then you only step down the chain when you want magical effects, specific things. But if you're just starting out, that's a little above your pay grade. You want to start by working with the god names, because otherwise you don't even know what you're dealing with.
No, I know. Cool. Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I know that's kind of all over the place, but I hope that's at least gives you some clues on where to start looking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my number one recommendation, dream journal. Dream journal meditation practice, let it come through, and you can ask yourself questions. Start by invoking. I mean, it's like you start with working with your own unconscious. You pose questions to yourself. The classic thing that creative people do is like, they're working on a problem, and then they wake up and they have the answer, right? I'm sure you've experienced this. The same thing, So begin the process working like that and get down the fundamentals, and then you can start targeting by using the Kabbalah. But get the basic process down, because I mean, it's like that your mind knows what to do, and it will offer you what you need in the moment for inspiration, anyways. And then once you get that, once you get the communication lines open, then you can start exploring different things. You can do that astrally as well. You take the astral projection course did you take that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that information will allow you to do it in waking consciousness rather than the dream world.
Yeah, it's still hard to kind of differentiate the two, but
yeah, if you're 3 weeks in, like, just don't worry about it. Take it slow. There's a lot years of stuff to learn here, so you're not going to get it all at once. But that's why I keep directing you back. It's like, get the basics down: meditation, dream journal. You'll notice even at the beginning of this call, I'm like talking to people who've got years, decades of experience, and it's still meditation every day, focus, meditation, journal, dream journal, it's like same shit. It doesn't change, The other stuff is just getting more detailed. It's doing detail work,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let me know what you figure out too. I'm curious, and I want to take that Hans Zimmer course on masterclass. Have you taken that? Is that any good?
Yeah, there's a new one out by Danny Elfman who did the movies. Yeah, that may be helpful. But you're on the right track. I mean, just anything by Spitfire Audio is really good, or orchestral.
Expensive though, right? Like yeah. I spent so much money on this shit. It's not even.
Oh yeah, no, I know that's why I can never get into drugs. It was music.
It's probably worse to be into music, right?
It is. I mean, you'll go crazy with that. Well, cool. I can't wait to hear your music, man.
Take the Buddhist course. It comes out in a few days. You'll be subjected to it for 3 hours. So, but yeah, let me know where you get. I'm curious what you find out, because it's an interest of mine as well.
Gosh, I'm just trying to get through the LBRP, man. But I'll see.
There you go. There you go. It's the same as everyone. LBRP, meditation, dream journal, magical record.
Got it.
Just get that down, and then it opens up from there, because the LBRP leads to the rest of the Kabbalistic universe. So those are the foundations. It's like it doesn't change. Those will always be the foundations, unless you're working in a different system, in which case it's still meditation, dream journal, and then whatever the foundational ritual of that system is.